everybody, I'm Nora Burrows. Today I want to make a log cabin that will give the illusion of a big circle. This is not something that I've ever done before, but I know in theory how to do it, so let's give it a try. You want to start with a variety of fabrics in two different tones, two contrasting colors. Mine are going to be kind of this black, brown, and then the contrast will be orange, yellow, gold kind of thing. I'm going to start with this piece here. This will be my squares for that start every single block. I'm going to do 4 blocks at a time. So I'm going to cut 4 squares, 1.5 inch. I've cut my 4 center squares, and I'm going to start with my yellow/orange fabrics, which will be end up being the inside of my circle. The outside of the circle will be the blacks, the darker fabrics. I've cut these to be 1.5 inches wide, and then I've cut them just to be a little bit longer than my square for each one. These will be sewn to the top, on top of the block. So you sew right sides together with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Open it up and press for each one. Now that my pieces are sewn on and ironed, I'm going to trim right along the side of each block here, just to give it a nice straight edge. So I'll do that for all 4. Then I'll take another strip. This is again 1.5 inches wide, and I'm making it just a little bit longer again than my block. And I'll attach this on to the right-hand side of each of these 4 blocks. This is pretty interesting. As you can see, I'm using really scrappy fabrics here. The next thing we're gonna do is trim the bottom of each of our blocks and add a dark strip of fabric to the bottom. Now, as you can see, the dark strips are thinner than our yellowy, orange, gold strips. These dark strips are cut to be 1 inch wide, and then again, just a little bit wider than our block. So we'll give a nice trim to each 4 blocks and attach our dark piece on to the bottom. I'm loving how scrappy this is. I'll say that plaids and stripes work particularly well for log cabins, so that's just something to keep in mind. And then you really want a nice solid contrast between your let's call them lights for argument's sake, and your darks. I'm not sure I'm gonna have the best contrast here. We'll have to see how this goes. Hopefully the contrast between even this one that's a little bit dark, between that being, a real orange and some of the darker pieces. I'm gonna trim each one of the sides on the left, then I'll attach a dark. Again, these dark pieces are 1 inch wide. I'll attach a dark to the left-hand side, all 4 of these blocks. At that point, I will have gone around my center square exactly once. These are pretty interesting. I have my yellows coming kind of up this way, and then the darks coming down this way. I'm gonna do another round off camera, just like I did this first round. My next piece will go above. I'll trim and I'll attach the strip above a little bit longer than my block. That will be a yellow one. Then down the side, another yellow one, black and black. That will complete another round. Remembering that the yellows, the inside of your circle, are going to be 1.5 inch strips, and the blacks, the outside of your circle, are going to be 1 inch strips. I've now gone around twice on each side of my center square, 2 for the lights, 2 for the darks. It's still looking a little messy. It's hard to see a pattern at this point. I think I would need to keep going and it will start to become more evident, I hope. It's also possible that some of these are too similar. For example, this one is a little bit still dark. It's not that real crisp pop like between this one and this one. You can really see that clear difference. So this is a little bit of an experiment, but let's keep going. I'm gonna do another round, 1 on each side, and we'll see how it looks. I've now gone around this center animal print block 3 times each. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 for each of my 4 blocks here. So I'm gonna go around a couple more times, but I want to place this and just kind of see how it's going. So if you turn these so that the dark corner is on the outside and the light corners come together in the middle, it should start to look a little bit rounded. And it does. It's beginning to take shape, and I think it's really cool. If I were to do it again, I would do a couple things differently in terms of my fabric choices, but I think it's good. I'm going to keep going. Let's turn these back so that they're facing the way that we're building them. And I'll go around again. My next step would be to put a yellow one here, then a yellow one down here, then black and black, remembering that the blacks or darks are all 1-inch strips and the lights or yellows are all 1.5-inch strips. I continually cut the yellow ones to be 1 inch. And when I go to sew it on, I realize I made a mistake. It's really annoying. So try and keep that in mind, that the sizes are different. The larger these blocks get, the more I like them. One thing that I started doing, initially I was trying to avoid putting 2 of the same printed fabrics next to each other or near each other, but I think it was on this one here, I noticed that I had this plaid here and I was about to put this plaid here, and I was thinking that I shouldn't do that because they were too close together. But I actually thought in the moment that it looked kind of cool and I wanted to try it. And I do think it came out well. So I started doing something similar on some of the other blocks. For example, I have this honeycomb fabric going vertical, and then I have the honeycomb going horizontal. I have that now in a couple different pieces here. Let's turn the blocks and look at them again the way that they're going to be. I think I want to add just one more round of strips, and then I think it will be done at this point. Let's see how big this is measuring about right now. So right now this block is about more or less 15.5 inches wide. So I'm going to go around one more time. And then what I was thinking is, not necessarily in this video, but in general, I would like to do maybe 9 of these blocks, 3 by 3, so you could really have the circles next to each other. And at that point, I think what happens when you put these blocks next to each other is kind of a diamond is created with this, making a secondary pattern as a diamond. So that's pretty cool. But let's do one more round and see where we're at that point. Here are my 4 finished blocks. They are not sewn together yet, as you can see, but I think this was a real success. I was not confident in how well this circle would look like a circle. I was not sure that there would be enough contrast between the yellow fabrics and the black ones that I was using, but I'm really thrilled. So I'm excited to sew this together. What I'm going to do is put these 2 right sides together. And so 1/4 seam allowance along this side. Do the same with these. 1/4 seam allowance right along this side. And I will open them up after I've sewn them, give it a really good press, and then I'll sew this unit to this unit. And here's the finished piece. I love it. I cannot wait to make more of these. I have all kinds of ideas going through my head about different colorways and different sizes and things like that. So I hope you enjoyed this as well. One thing I will say that I would recommend is for this final black, the final 2 black strips that you put onto each section. So like this piece, this piece, this piece, this piece, all the way around, I would make a full 1.5-inch strips instead of the 1-inch strips, because when I put the 4 pieces of the block together, these are so thin that it would just be easier for that last rotation to have a little bit more wiggle room. But other than that, I think this is great. And I'm interested to know, what colorway would you make this in? So leave a comment, let me know what color you would do this block in. I went ahead and made a second block just to see how the 2 looked next to each other. You can start to see this diamond forming. You can imagine if there was another 2 blocks below these circles, it would complete that secondary pattern, that diamond shape. So I'm really loving this. I'm a little bit addicted. I'm going to keep going. I was thinking about originally, as I mentioned, making 9, but that's going to be pretty big. So I might just make 4 and see where I'm at. I might add on to that. I might not. I'm also thinking about making this, as I mentioned, in another colorway, maybe just making one really, really big circle, bigger than these. And I think I might use less fabric, different types of fabric. So for this one, you see, I have a lot of different patterns of the yellow there, the yellow orange, which is really great for this piece. But I think I might
be interested to see how it looks with fewer choices of different patterns. Experiment a little bit with that. So there's a lot of different ways that you can go with this idea. So thank you for joining me. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.